And I'm talking to Danielle Droitsch, Executive Director of Water Matters, an Alberta advocacy organization that speaks for the interest of water. Maybe I should have you tell us about it, please, Danielle.
Well, thank you. So we're basically, our job is basically to protect the water for people in the environment. That's why we exist. We're a group of citizens that came together and realized that we need an organization that actually speaks up for the public interest in terms of water.
What are the threats to water in Alberta?
Well, there's a number of threats right now. Ranges from a significant industry increase of water use, whether you're in the oil sands in the north or irrigation use in the south. That industry use grows every year. We've been giving away water for 100 years, and we're not stopping anytime soon. We're also facing global climate change, which means basically we'll have less water in our rivers. We already see that is happening, but it's going to get worse. And then
I was going to ask you about that. What's the evidence that you're seeing?
Well, there's evidence you can actually see in Alberta because we have glaciers. And so overall, we've lost about 25% of the mass of glaciers over the last 100 years, but they're continuing to go away. Some glaciers are going faster than others, but they are a major source. But also snow. Snow is a major source of water for all of Alberta, and we have our snowpacks are getting smaller. And every year we're seeing a decrease in the amount of water coming from the mountains, so that's a real concern.
What are the current campaigns that you're working on now?
Probably the most important campaign that we're working on right now regards the government's current approach to giving water away. Right now, this government has not created a basic need for water for people. There is a need to, whether through legislation or through policy, to actually ensure and guarantee every citizen in Alberta, today and the future, has a basic amount of water for human needs. That's number one. Number two is, and it's related, that our rivers don't have enough water for environmental protection. And that's important not just because of the fish and the wildlife. It's important to us. If we don't have a healthy ecosystem, we don't have clean rivers. So we need to have enough water in rivers. So basically the campaign is about making sure this government sets aside water for people in the environment and that the remaining water goes to industry. Unfortunately, the way it works now is that the first priority, the highest water security, goes to economic uses. And clearly we need economics. It's just that they get the highest priority. So we have to think about a different way of thinking about water.
Do you think that government should be charging industry and agriculture for the use of water?
Well, it's actually a big debate about whether one should charge. I, for one, think there's some real value in, particularly with industry. There has been a lot of discussion about whether oil sands companies, for example, should be charged for their use of water. You have to remember that this government is not charging at all anywhere. So some might say it may be okay to charge industry, but it's not okay to charge for another type of use. So the discussion and the debate needs to happen, because when you put a price on water, there's increased efficiencies. People basically become more efficient with the use of water, and that already happens in municipalities. That live in municipalities, we pay for the servicing of our water, and therefore we have an incentive to reduce our use. Right now, if you're an industry, whether you're irrigation or you're in oil sands or you're any business, you have really no incentive to reduce your water use because you received free. Yeah, so that's part of the argument for doing it. It's not a solution for everything, and there's also concerns about whether one should charge for it. In the end, though, this government has a lot of tools at its disposal to encourage wise use of the water, and also to make sure that the way they allocate it, the way they give it away, it reflects what society needs, because right now it's basically an economic use.
Who supports Water Matters? Who are your members?
Well, we have supporters all throughout the province. These are basically citizens at at the very core. We're about people, but we have support from foundations. We have worked with the Alberta Federation of Labour on issues, Council of Canadians. So we have like partnerships, and then we really like to work as much as possible with local citizen groups that are concerned in their local watershed, because they're the ones who are actually making the on-the-ground difference.
And what kind of response are you getting from ordinary Albertans as opposed to people who are already politicized?
Well, there's no doubt that water is a top issue for Albertans. It is, of all the environmental issues, it is the #1 issue that they cite. So this has definitely gone beyond the environmental community. People are worried. Now, in terms of what they're thinking, it's interesting. Some in the rural communities, they understand because they need the water for their agriculture, or they just live on the land, so they're really aware. But when it comes to urban areas, we're still not seeing enough interest. And I think it's in part when you wake up in the morning, you turn your tap on, the water's there. And so the issues of scarcity, water scarcity, the issues of impacts to the watersheds are not as present in the urban areas. And so I have my work cut out for me to make that connection for people that the water isn't coming out of the tap, it's coming from the mountains.
You have a lot of educational and promotional work to do then.
I sure do.
And you speak in the first person singular, but I'm sure there's quite a few people working with you.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we have a staff of 5, and we have a wonderful board of directors, and we have hundreds of people throughout the province who are really concerned. But we do have some work to do to make this more about a handful, because water affects us all the time, every time.
Danielle Droitsch.